So I'm going to be talking today about collaborating with AI. So we talked a lot about collaboration today. I've got quite a lot of slides. It's such a massive topic, and there's so many ways that we can collaborate with AI, but I thought I would give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour. First thing I'd like to do is just get a feel for how you think about AI at the moment. So option here to join this Slido poll, so you can scan the QR code or go to slido.com and enter this number. And I'd just like to know how you feel about it. Do you love it or do you hate it? So I did one the other week and someone wrote the devil's work. I mean, you can be as honest as you want. It's good to know where you're at, really. So yeah, it's also nice for everyone in the room, I think, to know how people feel about AI. It's such a topic of discussion at the moment. Oh, interesting. So we've got cautious as the big one. We've got curious, innovative, overwhelmed. Yeah, that's a good one. Wary. Love, not good, bad. Okay, there's a real mix. Carefully excited. I like that one. Carefully excited. Intrigued. Oh, it's interesting how it's all changing. So we've got more curious. I'll just give you a few more minutes to take part in that. It's just another tool. Yep. I think it's quite nice to see a mixture. I think if everyone was really super excited about AI, I'd be a little bit nervous. It's an amazing tool, and there's so much that it can do, but at the same time, it's also something we do need to be cautious about, wary about, and I will talk about the different sides of it throughout my presentation. So, an introduction to me, I'm Kerry Harrison. I'm an AI educator and practitioner. I am also a copywriter by trade, so I've worked as a copywriter for over 20 years. And I have worked in AI for about the last 5. And when I talk about AI throughout this presentation, I'm talking about generative AI. So AI is a massive topic, but I'm talking about generative AI. It's just easy for me to say AI rather than generative AI every time. I'm also a yoga and meditation teacher, and I say that because it influences the way that I speak about AI, the way that I work with it. I'm very interested in how it can augment human creativity, and I'm really passionate about trying to maintain our human creativity and to use our amazing brains and all of our humanness at the same time as the tools. So 5 highlights from the last 5 years in my world. So I've created an AI curator for the Cheltenham Science Festival. We trained a neural network on every talk ever delivered at the Cheltenham Science Festival, and then it was able to generate talk titles of its own, and then one of those was delivered at the festival itself. I've also created the world's first AI gin, which is a really exciting project. Again, trained a neural network on loads of gin botanicals, and then it was able to create recipes which we took to a gin distillery in Bristol called Psychopomp, and they turned it into a gin. It's sold all over the world. It won 2 taste awards, and it tasted really good. I've got one on my desk at home. I bought one to drink and one to keep. So I've still got one at home. It was called Monka's Gargle, which is an AI-generated name. And this was obviously well before ChatGPT, because I'm sure ChatGPT would now give us a pretty good and very rational name for a gin. But Monka's Gargle was a bit out there. So this is me. I forgot to say, actually, this is me at like 5:30 in the morning up there at BBC Radio. So when we made our AI curator for the Cheltenham Science Festival, we actually took our curator onto the radio to partake in a conversation, and we gave it an AI-generated voice. And it's quite interesting, because now AI-generated voices are really, really good, and they're getting better and better all the time. It's often difficult to work out what's human and what isn't. But at the time, it was really otherworldly and slightly weird, but it was an interesting thing to do. I've won 2 DMA awards for the best use of AI. I also speak nationally. I say internationally because it sounds really good. I've spoken like once internationally, where I just put it on there anyway. I'm also the course director of the AI Copywriting Masterclass at the Chartered Institute of Marketing, a tutor on the DMA AI boot camps, which are starting this summer. And I'm also just trained to be a Google Garage trainer as well, so I can work with Google and their amazing tools. So I'm just going to take you through lots of different ways you can collaborate with AI, and a lot of them around content creation, because I specialize mainly in content creation as a copywriter. So AI is a great research assistant, and there's lots of tools that you can use in order to help you with your research, particularly around content creation, so if you're a copywriter, or whatever you do, if you're doing reports or anything you need to research, it's really helpful. In terms of main tools for writing, these are the main tools. There are so many writing tools that are available out there. And probably about a year ago, I was just, every time a new tool came out, I was like, right, I'm going to go and try this one, this one, this one. And I just got utterly exhausted because there's a new tool almost every week. So these are the key ones. And what I've decided to do, and what I recommend to others if they say, where do I start? I just say choose 2 or 3 tools that you really like and just get really good at those ones, because it's evolving all the time. So keeping on top of a few tools and learning to use them well is the way to go. That's from my point of view anyway. So we've got ChatGPT, which I think most people know about. It was the first one, came out in November 22, and really, really changed everything, I think, in the world of AI. I think before that point, a lot of people have been going like, I don't quite get what you do. And then by that point, people are like, oh yeah, I can see how this is going to work for me. And there's also Claude, which is the orange one there. 2 people that left OpenAI set up Claude. It's a very similar kind of vibe to ChatGPT, but it's got more of an ethical standard to it. So they tie it in with a kind of charter around ethics, so I really like that side of it. Copilot, Microsoft's version, which is more of an all-round AI assistant. And then we've got Gemini, which is Google's version. And then there's a new one called Perplexity. It's not massively new, but it's relatively new. And this is an AI search engine, which is something that's definitely getting a lot of coverage in the press, especially because Google have started to introduce a little bit of generative AI into their search results. Perplexity, it's valued at around about 1 billion at the moment, but it's one of those ones that's really up and coming. It has a chatbot inside it, so you can use it in the same way as the others, but you can also do search with it. And what it does compared to other search engines is it just delivers one result. So it'll search the internet, it'll come back, and it'll just give you one answer. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. So in terms of research, there's so much to say, so I just chose a few things that I thought would be really helpful for. So one, it's really useful explaining complex terms, and I use this quite a lot as a copywriter if I'm working with things that I don't fully understand and I need to really get on top of them very quickly. It's a really great tool for that. So this one here, I've just put it in black holes for age 16, but you can tailor it. You can make something really complex available for a 10-year-old or a university graduate or a business advisor, whatever you want to do, you can just ask it to do that, and it will give you a result that meets the needs of your audience. I've also used it for kids' homework. So I've got a 12-year-old girl, and sometimes she comes back, and I'm like, I have no idea how to even make that sound simple. So it's a good one for that too. It's also really great for summarizing information. I'd say it's probably one of the best things that it can do from my point of view. I know it's very good at summarizing large documents and putting it into a much more tangible and very short output. So you can summarize all sorts of information from things like huge documents like PDFs or reports, and it will then give you a little summary here. So this is an article. So this is on ChatGPT, and you can copy in a URL on ChatGPT. This was when it was on Plus, but now all free users have access to their latest model. So you should be able to do that. And it will summarize it for you. And what I always say to people is, it's really tempting to just get AI to summarize everything. But I think that as humans, there's still a real benefit for us reading a research paper from top to bottom and actually forming an opinion and getting lots of background contextual information. But one of the things that I quite like it for is if I've got to read a lot of documents, then what I'll do is I'll get ChatGPT or one of the other models to summarize it, and then I'll decide whether or not it's worth investing my time in that. Because sometimes before the timers of ChatGPT, I would read loads of research papers and documents, and lots of them would be like, oh, it's not really massively helpful for me. So now I can get a quick summary and go, yeah, I'm going to read that one from top to bottom. You can also go on to this. So this is Copilot on the Microsoft Edge browser. So if you go into Microsoft Edge browser, you can, whatever you've got in your browser window, you can have a chat with. So if you go into Copilot and open it up, you can essentially have a chat and ask it anything about the information in the browser window. So this is just my website, but you can see I've generated a page summary here, and it'll give you a summary of that. But it could quite easily be a PDF document, a research paper, whatever is in the browser window, it will converse with. So it's, again, pretty useful for summarizing information. AI is a brainstorming partner. So this is where I probably use it more than So although I'm a copywriter, I still like to write, but I do really love it for giving me ideas. And again, it's not a replacement for using our amazing brains and thinking outside of the box, and it can do some of that, but it's not fully there with full like conceptual stuff. But it's a really great way to just get started. So if you're creating content, so I work quite a lot with small businesses, well, businesses of all sizes really, but a lot of people that are creating content. And the thing is, when we're selling our products or our services, we often have to find so many different ways to say the same thing, or to, different content ideas to reflect what we do. So this is really great. So I've just said this is a theme for my weekly newsletter, but it could be anything. It could be social media posts. It could be ideas for any kind of campaigns, and you just ask for what you need. So in terms of prompting, I can't go into prompting today because I've got such a short time, but just being really specific about what you're looking for. So I put in there who my target audience are. I've outlined very quickly what I want to get out the other side. So I want a short outline of each theme. So any kind of ideas that you want to get started, and if you're stuck, there's just no need now for any of us to have that whole kind of blank page syndrome thing. We can just ask a model to get us started. So this is more of a fun one really, but it doesn't always have to be like super business orientated. So I was doing just a small gathering of people. I wanted to have an icebreaker, and I asked ChatGPT for some ideas for some icebreakers, which I thought was quite fun. And the thing is, I probably could have thought of some icebreakers myself if I'd sat down for a while, but within less than 30 seconds, I've got 20 ideas for an icebreaker. And yes, I might not take these exact ones, but it might make me go, oh, actually, that's quite a nice idea, but I've got this other idea that I can do that's come out of this. I quite like the cheese one. If you're a type of cheese, which one would you be and why? And I also quite like the whimsical wardrobe. If every shirt you wore displayed your current mood, what would today's shirt say? So again, just super, super quick ways of getting ideas started. You can also use some of these models like ChatGPT have got an app, so you can also interact with your voice. And I think when it comes to brainstorming, it's quite nice to do it with voice. It's such a vocal thing. So you can download the app, and you can just chat to it like you were chatting to anyone else. If you want to bounce some ideas around and you've got no one to bounce them off, you can go to, have a chat with ChatGPT. You can also, so I've done it before, where I've put my headphones in and gone out on a walk and just had to sort of float some ideas around. It's super, super easy, and the voice is getting better all the time. So you can interact in a much more natural way. So before there was a few more pauses, but now it's a lot more fluid, and you can actually interrupt, and it will stop, and then you can carry on. So yeah, brainstorming. You can choose your voices. So Sky's a bit controversial, actually. I think that one's now disappeared. That was the whole Scarlett Johansson thing. I'm not sure if anyone saw it. And then there's one's called Breeze, which is like, woo, super bright and breezy. So you can choose your voice and depending on who you want to interact with. So as a writing assistant, so this is probably where I use AI the most. I'm a copywriter by trade, and I still use it in a lot of my work, mainly just for getting started. So I use it for structuring ideas, maybe some first drafts, but I still like to write. But it will write pretty much anything that you ask it to write, and with the right prompts, you can get something really valuable and a really great start. But for me, it's not. What's really important is that we bring our humanity into these tools. And probably if you've asked me about it 8 months ago how I'd get the best results out of something like ChatGPT, it would be you generate a result and then you add the human craft on top. So you generate it and then you add your storytelling and your human craft. And then probably about 8 months ago, I was thinking, do you know what? What we do before we even come to the tools is also really important. So I created this methodology, and it's called the AI sandwich, because I realized that what we need is a kind of 3-stage process. We need human, then AI, and then human again. And so sandwich felt like the right way to go. It's not the most sophisticated of names, but it works. So for step 1 for me is always, before we use any AI tools for content creation, for whatever it might be, is to actually use our human intelligence first. And in terms of writing, that would be coming to, at the bare minimum, with an objective. Like, what do I actually want to create with Why am I using the tool? How's it going to help me? And have an objective. Also, ideally, a strategy, some creative thinking, maybe some researches that you've done, and then you can bring that, incorporate it into your prompting. So then what comes out the other side is much more tailored and customized to what you're looking for. So what you do with the prompting is really, really important on what you get out the other side. You can just turn up at any of these tools and just say, write me a blog on workplace well-being, and it will write a blog, but it probably won't be well, I know it won't be great. So doing this thinking beforehand is really important. Then what you get out the other side, you can say, okay, does this relate back to our overarching strategy? The next one is to use the tools, whatever tools you're using. And then the last one is, again, to bring this in human intelligence into the mix. So one, if you're writing, this is where you add the craft. Even if you're using it for visuals, you might want to take it into a further program to edit it and change it and make it your own. You also need to be fact-checking everything. So if you're using things like ChatGPT or any of those writing large language models, you need to be fact-checking so it has this ability to make things up. And obviously it doesn't do that intentionally because it's a large language model, it's a statistical model, everything's done around prediction. But stuff will come back that's not factually correct. So you might look at it and think that it sounds very viable. This is the thing, it sounds very true, but it's actually nonsense. So you do need to check everything, so that's really important. And also going back to some of the talks we've had earlier, looking at bias and making sure that what we're putting out is factually correct and in line with our company policies. We also need to sense check it. There's a real wow factor, I think, with AI. The fact that you can just type in the most simple prompt and get a blog in less than 30 seconds, you're kind of like, oh, wow, that's amazing, I've got a blog. How brilliant. And then you just kind of forget to ask, because it's kind of done, you forget to ask, is it any good? Does it actually relate to what we're doing as a business? If I wrote this from scratch, would it look anything like this? So that's a really important part to do. And I think this sort of three-stage process is how you get the best results out. So really, really bring in our human brains and skills and creativity. In terms of how that looks in real life, so just thought I'd quickly whiz through. So asked to write a blog for Enterprise Nation. So this is the prompt I use. So quite could go more detailed than this, but so asked for exactly what I wanted. I said I wanted to include certain elements. I asked it to tell me, I was very specific about how long I wanted it to be. It won't always get the word count right. It's a large language model, but it's just to give it a guide. I've said what the tone is. And you can also ask the model if it needs further information. So you can also ask it what else it needs. And I think that's quite an interesting thing that you can do. And it will sometimes say, actually, I need a bit more information on this. And then, again, you'll get something better by having that sort of two-way conversation. And then it generates a nice structure, which is really useful. It just means I'm not spending hours creating a structure. I've got something to go from, and then I can write it. And this, I write this from scratch because I'm a writer, so once I've got the structure, I'll then write it. But you could just ask it to generate a blog. If you are doing any long-form content, I would say to really break things down, to do it literally paragraph by paragraph, because it's really difficult to go in. If you've ever, I'm sure a lot of you have tried it, going in and editing, you'd have to say, can you regenerate paragraph 2, line 3, and it's just so frustrating. So I always say, if you're going to do long form, just to do everything in bits. Yes, so that's in terms of, there's so much I can say on writing. I do like a full AI writing course at the CIM, and it's a full day, and I've got 2 minutes or 3 minutes to do it. So it's also really helpful as a writing coach if you're not a natural writer, or if you've written something yourself and you want to get a bit of an idea of how you might be able to improve it. It's quite useful for that too. So again, just one really simple prompt, but you can ask it to give you some ideas of how you might improve it. So really simple, please suggest 5 ways I can improve this blog, and then you put your blog in. Or you can be more specific and say, please can you improve the clarity or the emotional cues or the storytelling? And again, it will suggest ideas for you. And I don't always want to take the advice of the model, but sometimes I'm like, oh, actually, that's quite useful for me to take, and so I'll do that. So it's quite nice to analyze stuff that you've already done. You can also use it as an image and video creator. So again, with the writing tools, there's a lot of AI image tools that are out there. These are probably the main ones. And I don't use Adobe Firefly, so I don't use the Adobe suite, so I don't know how great that is, but I've heard really good things about it. So the one I tend to use is Midjourney. DALL-E is the OpenAI tool, so you can get images generated within ChatGPT. And the prompting is similar in that you need to be able to say exactly what it is that you need without being too wordy, but also without being too short. So this is just a quite simple one. So I wanted a close-up portrait. I'm looking for an image, a photographic image here. So being quite specific about the kind of light, what I want to see, what the camera I'm going to use to take it with. And then it will come back with something like this. And so I use images for image generation for things like my newsletter, presentations, blogs, when I'm writing a blog. I'll often generate an image for my blog. It saves you looking around loads of image websites to find what you need, because you can just type exactly what you're looking for, which is really helpful. If you'd have done this probably about 6 months ago, she'd have probably had maybe like an extra finger and a bit of a melting ear or something a little bit freaky, but it's getting better and better. So this is on Midjourney, and I still sort of look at these and think, I can't believe that's not actually a real person playing a guitar on a rooftop. It's just purely generated. You can also obviously generate anything that you can picture in your mind. So I said I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and she has these like ideas, and she's like, I've got this idea and I want to put it down. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's see what we can do. And you can just describe whatever, as you can in as much detail as possible. So you can do things that are very conceptual. I've known people that have done things who are like event organizers, who will have something like really wild in their minds that they want to try and explain to their client, and they can put that into a prompt and get some nice mood boards together. You can also do illustrations as well. So, so anything from corporate to line drawings, whatever. As long as you can describe it, you can make it. And then there's video. So video's relatively, I still feel like it's not, like the visual stuff is pretty good. Video's still in the early days. These are created on a program called Runway, and there are other image video generation tools coming out. So this one on the right is a text to video, so you can type a text in of what you're looking for, and it will generate a video for you. Or you can also illustrate a still. So if you've got an image and you just want to bring it to life, you can go into Runway, highlight the elements you want to bring to life, and it will animate those certain sections. So this is what I did. This is an AI-generated image, and then I sort of animated all of it. But you could just animate her skirt, or you could just animate her hair, and it would just make the hair blow. So lots you can do in video. In terms of where it's going, I think most people might have heard of this, is Sora. This is OpenAI's video tool, and it's really, so it's not out yet, and everyone's wondering when it's going to come out. They've said this year at some point, but I'm not sure where it's going to go. I just thought I'd show you some of the tools, what it looks like in real life. So they've done some demos, and they've done some demos, and they obviously, because of the demos, they look really amazing. I'll just show you some of the ones you can do, but it's quite, compared to where we are at the moment, these are really quite advanced. So the one that I showed you with the sea coming in, it's very short. You can only generate about 4 to 6 seconds, but these are a minute long. They're at full widescreen. There's things like this one here, of these like big woolly mammoths. There's some really nice sort of movement ones, which I really like. So this one here, I still can't believe that's not real. Yeah, and then some sweeping drone shots. So I think they're aiming this at people that are doing film, and it's being tested at the moment by lots of different people, mainly for safety, because as you can imagine, when you can start generating video from text prompts, it's going to be very difficult to know what's real and what isn't real. So that's something that they are really trying to investigate in more detail. So that's again just such a whistle stop. But yeah, video's definitely the way. There's so much investment going into video at the moment. So Sora, because that came out, because they released the demos quite a while ago now, lots of people are trying to play catch up. And I think it was this week or last week where a big Chinese company's also tried to come forward to try and beat Sora to the market. And that's looking really impressive as well. You can also use AI as a note taker, and I'm sure a lot of you are already doing this, but tools like Otter AI and Sybil you can take into a meeting with you. It'll take your notes for you, which is quite useful as long as you've got permission of the people that I always ask permission. Are you okay for me to have this AI tool in our meeting? But it'll transcribe the conversation, but you can also chat with it afterwards as well. So this is what it looks like. It comes into your Zoom meeting for you. You can get a transcription. So I did a meeting. I held a writers' meeting, actually, and normally after those meetings, I'll do a little newsletter afterwards just with the key outtakes of the session. So just ask for what were the key takeouts. It gives me an outline of what the key takeouts were from the meeting, and I can use those as a base for my newsletter that goes out afterwards. So you can ask it anything about the conversation, anything about the transcript. Sybil's another one. This is a bit more advanced, and this one is great for things like sales teams. If you want to get more of a vibe for how the people in your meeting were interacting with your content, which is also slightly freaky, but it will tell you when specific people interacted, as in when they responded well to your content or when they didn't. So when they lost interest, when they smiled. So you can see there, all three prospects had a light moment when the demo was being discussed, and Jake took notes at security and pricing. So then what you can do is you can follow up with the people that were in your meeting, really highlighting things that you know that they were engaged about. It can also be, so it's getting slightly more weird, but I'll show you anyway. So then we've got as a personal avatar. So Synthesia, which is massive, and I think a lot of people are now using this tool, allows you to choose an AI avatar, choose the language that you want, and then you can literally type in what you want the avatar to say, and it will say it. So I know businesses who are sort of high-tech businesses who are creating content, video content, and their models are always changing. So for them, this is great because it means they can create a video just by changing the script. So it says 120 on here. I took a screenshot a while ago. I think it's 140 now, but I'll just show you what that's like. I'm going to have to bring the mic over, so just excuse me while I do it.
Hey, I'm Julia, one of over 160 AI avatars available in Synthesia. In a few clicks, you can create a free video just like this one. See for yourself and try it out today.
So that's you can see how it works. But yeah, so you type in what you want your avatar to say, and it will do it. You can also create your own avatar, which I think is is quite expensive, but I found this other tool that you can use, which is growing in popularity. It's called Hey Gen, and it allows you to create your own digital twin. So you can go on, you can train a model on yourself, on your voice, and then you can do the same as I've just showed you, where you can type in, and it will deliver what you've asked it to deliver. So this is me. I have to say that when I did that, I looked so rough. I think I was really, really tired. I've also got a massive spot on my chin, but I thought, do you know what, I'll retrain it and make it a bit more glamorous and get the lighting all right. And I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to keep it real because we are human beings. But anyway, it's done all that very well, so I've got this lovely spot. So I'll show you what it's like.
Hello there, this is my digital twin, trained on Hey Gen. It's a bit freaky, but maybe this is the future. What do you think?
So it's a little bit glitchy and a little bit weird, but you can see where it might go. And you can see my cracking spot. Let's just move on. So, and then Hey Gen I've done more recently. We don't need to see that any longer, we need to be. I want to go back once. So they've also developed it even further lately, where you can, so when I did the training, I'm just going to pause it for a sec. When I did that training, it said to me that I couldn't do too much gesticulation with my hands. I had to be relatively still. But they've changed this now where you can actually do full body. You can move around a bit. It'll take in background sound. And this was released relatively recently, but I'll show you what it looks like.
You can use Hey Gen to create UGC-style content, even while people are in motion or moving their hands. You can even hear the background noise. Create a training video with specific tones and gestures, and you'll find how natural Hey Gen's videos can be. Let me switch to Spanish. Hoy queremos darle un vistazo al futuro. Puede utilizar Hey Gen para crear contenido estilo UGC, incluso cuando las personas están en movimiento.
So you get the idea, but you can train it on. So this is generated. You can train it to walk and interact with the sounds around you, and obviously in any language. And it just shifted there between the two languages, but you could choose the language that you wanted. So that's kind of where it's going. There's just another one, just one last thing to. Let's come back out of that. So. Okay. And so I suppose just to finish off with what's next and where it's going. So the tools that I showed you, and a lot of people, we talked about ChatGPT, they're all they're quite ground in the computer, and that we have to turn up and we have to type in, and we're typing things into boxes. But going forward, it'll become much more of an all-round assistant, an all-round collaborator for us, and we'll be able to get it to do all sorts of things. So this is Google. This was a demonstration at their developer conference. Not very long ago, actually, probably about a month or so ago. And this is kind of where they're going with it, and this is what we'll be interacting with in the future.
Okay, let's do some tests. Tell me when you see something that makes sound.
I see a speaker, which makes sound.
What is that part of the speaker called?
That is the tweeter. It produces high-frequency sounds.
Give me a creative alliteration about these.
Creative crayons color cheerfully. They certainly craft colorful creations.
What does that part of the code do?
This code defines encryption and decryption functions. It seems to use AESCBC encryption to encode and decode data based on a key and an initialization vector, IV.
That's right. What neighborhood do you think I'm in?
This appears to be the King's Cross area of London. It is known for its railway station and transportation connections.
Do you remember where you saw my glasses?
Yes, I do. Your glasses were on the desk near a red apple.
What can I add here to make this system faster?
Adding a cache between the server and database could improve speed.
What does this remind you of?
Schrodinger's cat.
All right, give me a band name for this duo.
Golden Stripes.
Nice. Thanks, Gemini.
So that's kind of where we're potentially heading and how different it's going to be. We're not just going to be on our computers typing in prompts into ChatGPT. So, as I said before, AI is all very amazing and wonderful, and it can do some really brilliant stuff, but there's also some key considerations, which I always think it's important to talk about. We need to be fact-checking everything. If you're using for any kind of text or written, any kind of written pieces, you need to fact-check everything. As I said before, hallucinations are real. They're not really easy to see, so we just need to make sure we use our humanness afterwards. Think about the data you're handing over, so bearing in mind that sometimes the best results that we get are when we put in an example or something we've already done, and it's just really important to think about what you're putting into the model. So I always say don't put anything in that's private or confidential or proprietary. So these tools are not very transparent. We don't fully know how they're working. We do know that they've probably scraped the entire internet to create them without any kind of consent. So it's probably quite important to think about how your data is being used and what kind of information you're putting in. We don't really know what they're doing with it. And I don't know, I'll leave that up to you. I know a lot of people that just put in anything and everything. But for me, I would just be cautious about what you put in. Use AI efficiently, so the environment is a big issue. I think that with AI that we tend to think of it as this kind of magic tool, but what we forget is that it's actually powered by massive server rooms, and those server rooms have to be kept cool, so we also need a huge amount of water to do that. So it's it uses a lot of CO2, it uses a lot of water. I read a research paper recently that suggested that between 5 and 50 prompts could use up to half a litre of water. So another thing I say, which I go back to the sandwich, the AI sandwich, is that actually taking time to really craft our prompts is really important, because if we don't really think about our prompts and just turn up and go, oh, I'll do that, oh, it's not quite right, I'll do it again and again and again, it just means that we're using, every time we do that, we're using water, we're using CO2. So actually putting in some thinking time before is really important. Upskill yourself and your teams is what I also say, is that everyone's using it wisely. AI literacy is something that's becoming more and more important, and obviously as someone who trains people, I'm going to say this, but what I think is really important, so often, the C-suite say, we'll want to know all about AI and how they can use it, but actually everyone in the organization needs to know, because if anyone's using it without really thinking about it, or they are using prompts and they're not aware of the importance of fact-checking, then you can get into all sorts of messes, really. So I just think it needs to be something that we all know. These tools are here, they're not going anywhere, and we need to be able to learn to use them wisely and well. And the last thing I'd always say is always add your amazing human creativity. Although it's super, super tempting to get AI tools, generative AI tools, to do all of this for us, it's also really important that we still use our brains and our analytical skills and our problem solving and our creativity, and to just keep nurturing and preserving that, because it's so important. It's been passed down for generations. It's such an important part of who we are as people, as humans. We are naturally creative and we do all this wonderful stuff. So don't hand it all over to the AI, even though it might make your life very, very easy. It's a tool for us to use. It's a way to augment our skills. So yeah, Q&A. I've no idea if I've gone over time. Sorry if I have. So if you've got any questions, so yeah, if you want to get in touch, I'm on LinkedIn, that's my website. I've also got a newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks, which talks about AI, but also some lovely human stuff like books and creative things that you can do as a human being. So thank you very much.